welcome to Real Time Recorded, week 28. Hello, Zeus, how are you?
Hey, Dave, how you been?
I'm doing great. I'm living the digital nomad lifestyle, trekking across Europe, heading back to the U.S. tomorrow, and of course my flight is delayed. I just checked in, and it's like 24 hours in advance and delayed, so I get a little nervous about that.
Wow, how did they know that far in advance? It's a scary thing.
That's what makes me nervous. It's just going to get better, I think.
Yeah.
Kind of a slow week, actually. There were a few interesting things that came out of week 28. Let's start off with, Javed, the leader of Cisco Collaboration. He did a blog post, kind of surprising that he did this, on visual collaboration. And the key to the announcement was support for Miro and Mural. Both are visual collaboration tools. Now, visual collaboration is really, really important. I mean, you think it goes back to the cave drawings. Every classroom's always got a chalkboard. Every meeting room's always got a whiteboard. You just can't draw well on a keyboard, and it's just so important to the way we work. And during the pandemic, we were limited with our tools. There's several ways to do visual collaboration in a meeting. Lifesize and Logitech have a solution where the camera goes over a traditional whiteboard. Google has that Jamboard. I remember when Cisco came out with the Spark board. Now it's the WebEx board. Microsoft's got the Surface Pro. But these are all physical devices or physical solutions, and that doesn't necessarily work well for remote workers at home. And so I've never used Miro, but I've used Mural quite a bit. Two very unfortunate names for some similar apps, but yeah. Mural is a really smart solution. It's a virtual board that runs on the desktop software-based. It works on any device, and I think what's really important that nobody really talks about is it works in any meeting app. And so as long as you can share a screen, so you can go from a Cisco to a Zoom meeting and bring your content with you, where that's a little harder to do with, say, a Jamboard from Google. The board is the last analog device in the conference room, and I've been thinking we're going to replace the board, and there's certainly logic to replace the board with a physical board. But this work at home thing, I think it's more logical to replace with a virtual board. What do you think, Zeus?
Yeah, this is a tough one, Dave. You're right; it is the last analog device, and there have been efforts to try and digitize the analog. You know, you mentioned Lifesize; they bought that company Captiva, who I really like. Actually, I think that's a really good tool, but most people don't have physical whiteboards in their home. Now, when it comes to the drawing tools, like I haven't used either of the two Cisco partner with, but I'm pretty familiar with them. I've used tools like it before, and it's not quite the same as using a physical whiteboard. I do like what Cisco's done with their Desk Pros and things, where there's a pen on this. Actually, here's one. Right, there's a pen on the side, and you actually draw on the screen.
Nice. Just happen to have one there. That's nice.
Yeah. Thanks to Cisco for that. That kind of works, but I think this is this isn't an and, Dave. I don't think we replace one for the other. I think what's going to be interesting to see is if a vendor like Cisco or anybody can actually bring together, the life-size Captivo type of whiteboarding capabilities with digital, make it interactive. Obviously, I couldn't change something on a digital whiteboard and then have it, appear in a physical one. I will say that the one thing the digital ones have that the physical ones don't is some element of version control, where if we put up a diagram on the screen and I can take a snapshot and save it, and if I make some changes, I can go back to what it was. On a physical whiteboard, if you erase it, it's gone, right? But I do think that is it's a difficult challenge that I applaud Cisco for going down this route and trying to partner in this area. But I don't think we've licked this problem yet. To me, it's maybe the hardest problem we have in collaboration.
Also this week, Dialpad announced a few things. They announced Dialpad meetings, and they also announced Dialpad channels. I wrote about these on NoJitter, and so there's probably no reason to cover it because everybody read that, no doubt. But really what's happening here is Dialpad is executing. That's the best word. They acquired High Five last year, so they had Uber Conference and they had High Five. They said they were going to integrate them. Guess what? They integrated them. They renamed it to Dialpad Meetings. It's a standalone app, but more importantly, it's also completely integrated into the Dialpad suite, which includes messaging, calling, and meetings. And also, more importantly, it's a single app that does all this. And so the single app has come together pretty nicely for Dialpad. It's actually a really nice implementation. I don't know if you tried it, Zeus, but I was playing around with the Meetings app, and it's really nice. There's some nice options in there. You can do side-by-side. You've got the transcription captioning capability that's powered by their voice intelligence that they acquired a few years ago. So that story's come together real nice, and I think Hi-Fi brought to the table a much stronger platform, much more scalable platform. They're talking about 10,000 user conferences. I can't wait to be on that conference, and it's all web based. So that's coming together really nicely. They also announced a product called Dialpad Channels, which is, I don't know what to call this, the clubhouse of enterprise communications. RingCentral announced something similar to this. It's basically, if meetings are your formal meeting opportunity, your channels opportunity is more like your water cooler opportunity, ad hoc conversations. And they're also transcribing that with voice intelligence so you can see what you missed which water coolers don't have. I think it's a great upgrade to the water cooler. So that's the Dialpad story. The next big thing to watch at Dialpad is going to be contact center. They haven't made any announcements yet, but I get the feeling that's where they're focusing. Yes?
Yeah, well, if they're actually, I like the channels product for business use more so than I do for consumer use. I have found Clubhouse to be exhausting and tiring and not all that useful. But if we're trying to do live events, right, and I think one of the sessions of live events you and I, Dave, like most is the cocktail hour, in which you can just go talk to people ad hoc, right? Then you could use it for that. The other use case I see for that is when you think of an event, sometimes you don't want to sign up for a session and then have to attend it. But you'd like to check it out and see how it's going. And so channels would let you do that. You could poke your head in the room. You could watch it for 5 minutes. If you like it, you stay. If you leave, you go to the next one. And right now, that's really not possible with virtual events, but I think channels makes that possible. And I will say, Dialpad's a good company. I think they're perhaps, they cut that deal with T-Mobile. They're maybe one of the most underappreciated companies in the UCaaS space. It doesn't, they don't get the same type of airtime as some of their the publicly traded rings and folks like that. But they're certainly a good company, and I think just how quickly they integrated the Hi-Fi stuff and brought that in and rationalized down that portfolio just shows how good an engineering company they are. There was a startup that announced some interesting stuff, Dave. There's a company called Uniphore. They're a conversational AI company. They're backed by John Chambers. I've talked to him extensively about this. He loves this company. It's one of his favorite ones. And they've made a number of updates to their product called UAssist, which is their agent automation tool. And this is a lot of after-call tasks that you can be done with this. And so when you think of conversational AI, it's often used to help an agent out, but there's a bunch of stuff the agent has to do after the fact. For instance, there's a feature called interaction sectioning, which provides agents assistance with real-time information, but then also during the wrap-up phase of a call, automatically there was a call summary and follow-ups. And so if there's an agent and they promise to do 3-4 things for the customer, the AI can actually go in, look in the call, and remember to send the email out, send the refund credit out, send the envelope out, or whatever. But it prepares summaries for the agent based on the recollections, based on the information that was in the conversations. That's a pretty cool way to think about the use of AI. It's not just for the now, but it's also for the after. They have an improved intent detection algorithm as well. So intent detection has been hit or miss, I guess, with the vendors. Often AIs get mixed up when somebody says thank you in a snarky way. They don't really mean thank you. They mean stop bugging me or something like that. I actually had that be the case where I think I tweeted one of the airlines that says, thanks for having my flight be delayed. Now I miss my meetings. And they replied with, glad you're so satisfied, right? So,
yeah.
So what Uniphore is doing is to detect intent. The models actually analyze what stage the calls are in, the customer sentiment, what words are being said, how the agents resolve the issue, and then actually whether there's coaching required or not. And on the topic of coaching, they improved their AI-based supervisor alerts as well. So one of the big advantages of AI is on the coaching side. If you think of the historical contact center, Dave, coaching was done by having an agent, a supervisor, physically listen in random calls.
Yep.
Well, you can only listen to 1% of the calls, and AI can listen to all of them. So with this feature, supervisors automatically get alerts when a call is going awry, and the details are sent with customer sentiment scores and things like that. For the supervisor. So I think this is a case where Uniphore, they're not trying to be just another contact center vendor. They are trying to take AI to a whole different level here and replace agents in some cases, assist agents in other cases. I've often said that as we get more AI based, we're going to see the ASPs in the contact center go up, and I think this is just a market that's waiting to explode, Dave.
Well, the whole category of contact center AI is just a huge category, getting bigger all the time.
Yeah.
The pioneers like I guess IBM Watson was a pioneer or whatever. The pioneers get the arrows in the back, but now I think Google was probably the first of the pioneers that didn't get the arrows in the back. Google CCAI is very popular. Genesis, Mitel, I think Avaya, and then Amazon has their CCI. They don't use the A, CCI. I think TalkDesk is using them. Microsoft just bought Nuance. We just did a podcast. Evan and I just did a podcast with GridSpace. I just saw Cognigy, I think it's called. Just did a fundraising, and I'm reporting those fundraising rounds fairly regularly in my insider reports. So it's just a category that's taking off. Now, I think this category is going different than we expected. I think we were expecting IVR, 3.0 or 2.0 to whatever you call it. That was just going to automate all these calls, never talk to an agent again. But really what's happening is the opposite with augmented agent technology and automated wrap-up type of capabilities, better call routing, better coaching like you're talking about. And I think the bots things are getting better too. Personally, I'm not crazy. I haven't found a bot I really like yet, but the real opportunity seems to be really making the human experience much better. So it's great to see all this happening, and it's just amazing. We were at the Amazon Connect had a conference this week, and they spent a lot of time on AI. Five9 spent a good chunk of their event about a month ago on AI. Genesis, that's the main conversation. So it's just over and over.
It was interesting. Pasquale's comments this morning from AWS Connect. We had an analyst call with him where he now says we're not trying to make our bots sound like humans. We want people to know that they're bots, then you're not going to get the same level of empathy as you are from a human. And that's sort of an interesting juxtaposition because historically people were trying to make bots be more human. And so it's going to be fascinating to see how this market plays out because we've got a mix of people and machines and how those two interact and what the people's satisfaction is I think still yet to be determined. But clearly AI is here in the contact center and it's here to stay. Okay, well, Dave, that wraps up week 28. I'm sure we'll be back next week with week 29 and some exciting news. So on behalf of Dave Michaels, my co-host, we'll see you then.